must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must the white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? How many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many years can a mountain exist before it's washed to the sea? How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? How many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many times must a man look up before he really sees the sky? How many years must one person have before he can hear people cry? How many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Hello and welcome to our brief time of reflection this week. I remember Blowing in the Wind as one of the archetype songs of the 1960s. A plea, really, when will wars come to an end? At that time, the Vietnam War, of course, was raging. This week, on Sunday, many of us will gather and remember those who have died in war. We will gather at our war memorials, in our church services, around our televisions as we watch the ceremony at the Cenotaph in London. And we will be wearing our red poppies. The red poppy, as we know, a symbol which emerged after the First World War, inspired by those poppies in the fields of Flanders where so many died. And ever since then, the Royal British Legion have encouraged us to buy and wear poppies in remembrance. I'm struck by how, year after year, yet more people seem to gather. And increasingly younger people too. There are many families now who know someone who has served in a recent war, perhaps in Iraq or Afghanistan. So it's no longer remembering wars long past, but remembering the current conflicts, the recent wars too. The red poppies emerged from what was known as the Great War, the war to end all wars, it was said. And yet, in the 1930s, a group of women, widows, loved ones, sisters, daughters of those who had lost their lives in the war or who were still living with the devastation that war injury can bring, they became concerned that yet again there were signs of emerging conflict in Europe. And so they began to make white poppies. And the white poppy, ever since the 1930s, has also been worn. Poppy as a sign for a longing for peace alongside the remembrance. And the white poppies today are there particularly for three themes. One is to remember all those who have died in war. The red poppy particularly commemorates British and Allied forces, and more recently the British Legion have acknowledged civilian deaths too. But the white poppy reminds us of people everywhere, and particularly of civilian casualties of war. Secondly, it's a symbol of a hope and an intention to work for peace. And it also, perhaps, is a statement against the glorification of war and the vast military machine, the industry, which consumes millions of pounds and dollars in the production and export and use of armaments in current conflicts. Here now is a short clip with the poet Benjamin Zephaniah, who explains why for him wearing a white poppy seems the right thing to do.
I love wearing my white poppy. I could wear a red one, but I don't just want to remember British people who have died in war. I want to remember all people. In fact, I want to remember all people and all animals who have died in wars anywhere in the world, Africa, Asia, Europe, anywhere in the world. You see, for me, the idea of peace is not just a space in between wars. Peace is not just the absence of war. Peace is something that we should really be working towards. And it's not just about remembering past wars, it's making sure that we avoid future wars. You see, one of my favourite sayings is that there is no way to peace. Peace is the way. And until we have rulers, leaders, people in authority who understand that, I'm going to keep wearing my white poppy. And I urge you to do the same. We have to remember all victims of war, not just a select few. And we have to work towards a world where there is no war. We can do it. If we can put people on the moon, if we can invent computers, if we can do all these great, wonderful things that we claim to do all the time, then why can't we undo war and do peace? Wear a white poppy. You know it makes absolute sense. Peace.
Benjamin reminds us that peace is more than just an absence of war. That peace is something that needs to be worked for, and in his phrase, we have to undo war as a solution to conflict. War to end all wars, they called it, and yet of course it wasn't. I was looking at some figures about the conflicts that are going on in our current age. There are places where the recorded deaths from war in the last year have been more than 10,000, and where these are regarded as major wars and conflicts. In Myanmar, Afghanistan, of course the Ukraine, in the Yemen and Ethiopia, and also in Mexico, a different kind of wars driven by drugs and the drug trade. All of those places, thousands upon thousands of people losing their lives, many of them civilians. And there are other places too. Many of them in Africa or the Middle East, where there is war and conflict raging. And we know that there are also places of real tension. And so we think perhaps of the Kurdish, Iran and Turkish border, of the border between India and Pakistan, both nuclear powers, of Israel and Palestine, the conflict that continues in what we call the Holy Land, and even nearer to home, worries about violence erupting again on the border in Ireland. So many places that need our prayers and our pledges to turn things around. White poppies are available to pick up in church if you would like. The church is open every day. So let's remember, let's wear both our poppies. A red poppy for remembrance and a white poppy perhaps for hope of a more peaceful world. I'd like to finish today with some words which go back 6 centuries before Christ to Dao Tse, the Chinese philosopher, but which ring true for all of us. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbours. If there is to be peace between neighbours, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. Let's all pledge ourselves to be people of peace. This Remembrance Day and always. Go well. God bless.
Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, oh God, I Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. Oh Master, grant that I may never seek so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, only let light. And where there's sadness, ever joy. Oh Master, grant that I